Guess who remembered to turn their microphone on this time? It's taken me 3 weeks to get it, but finally I remembered how to turn my microphone on so it works first time. And that is already a win for today as far as I'm concerned. Also, Nick, fair play to you, man. You're straight in there today. You usually catch like the last 5 minutes of every stream. You know it was coming or something. Or have I just caught you at a lucky time? Also, I was going to say the hands we'll be reviewing today are not mine. They were sent in to me by someone who's just moved up from 10 NL to 25 NL, and just asked if I didn't mind reviewing some hands and getting the opinion of the group and all that. So I said yes, basically. That's all there is to that story. The first thing I want to kind of do though is just kind of express how, well, I mean I don't know if this is just me, but how good that I'm finding this group to be in terms of improving my own game. So we've done this 2 weeks on the trot now. It's the third week, and I have played a bit this week. Didn't play really hardly at all last week. Well, I played a bit this week since the last session that we did together, and it's gone pretty well. So this is party poker. You can't see it very well there. Give me a sec. So I don't know how well you can see that. I don't really have a way of kind of zooming this in, but 85 big blinds over 100. It's very, like, super small sample. Obviously, it's only 450 hands or whatever. It's barely a session. But I managed to go up 4 buy-ins in playing 10 and L in a very short kind of burst, playing on party poker. But then what you can also combine that with is what I've done in the last week playing on PokerStars. So I've won about 4 buy-ins playing PLO 5, and then between NL10 Zoom and NL10 Reg tables, I've won another 5 buy-ins at 10 NL. So just since our last session, but I might even be missing a day or two there. What day is it? Yeah, I'm missing a couple of days, but this is literally since Monday. Kind of taking on board what we've been talking about in these sessions, and trying to think about some of the things that you guys have been saying in the chat and what have you like that. And the result is that in the space of a couple of days and very, very few hands, like we're talking less than 2,000 hands, between different respective games, I'm up 9 buy-ins at 10 and L, or just under 9 buy-ins at 10 and L, and up 4 buy-ins at PLO 5, $5 PLO. So like, I hope everything's going as well for everyone else, but I just thought I'd share that because I didn't really kind of notice it until earlier on today, like just before starting the stream. I thought, actually, you know, that kind of testament to how this group has been kind of working out for me, at least, is the fact that, the last kind of month or two I'd been, bobbing up and down a little bit, but yeah, the last week has gone really well. I've got a little bit lucky in spots. I'm very conscious of that, but even my my variance-less EV, my net 1 EV, is still like really, really fucking positive as well. So like, I'd still be up even without variance. I'd still be up like, I don't know, $80, something like that, instead of the $116 that I think I'm up at the moment. But yeah, just wanted to share that with you guys, and I hope that everything's going well for everyone else as well. So for those of you who've just joined us, because I've just seen a few extra numbers appear in the corner, we're going to be reviewing some hands that were sent over to me by a young gentleman who has just moved up from 10 NL to 25 NL, and just wanted to get kind of the group's opinions on his play, basically. So yeah, so we're going to do that, and we are going to kick it straight off. I think won't wait for any more people to arrive. So just so you guys are aware, this isn't, I'm not on Poker Tracker at the moment. These are Poker Tracker made videos, basically. We couldn't get the hands to work with my HUD, with hand to note, which is this. For whatever reason, the site says that the hands should work, because the site is bet online. But for whatever reason, they just didn't work. So we're just doing it in video format. So we don't really have any kind of reads on the players. He did send me some stats on the players, but I think we'll just kind of go with this as readless, because in all the other games all the other review sessions rather, we've been pretty much readless with those as well. However, we have seen opponents hold cards. This way around doing it, we won't see the opponents hold cards until the end of the hand. So it should make for a bit more of an interesting kind of discussion, because we won't know what our opponents has, so we won't be kind of swayed by what we can see on the screen. So hero on the button, ace king off, going to be a 3-bet, I'm sure. Okay, straight in there with a 3-bet. In terms of size, I think I like the size. I mean, if you think about what 3x of 80 cents would be, that would be about 240. He's just gone slightly over 3x. I like the size. I don't think there's much more to say about it than that, to be honest. So we'll carry on with the hand. A call in the small blind. If I'm in this hand and I see a small blind cold call, a 3-bet, my first instinct is ace queen, suited or unsuited, maybe ace jack suited, maybe very rarely ace 10 suited, and then like queens, jacks, 10s, maybe sometimes 9s. Like very rarely do I ever see anyone call with a range more than that, because if they've got aces and kings, generally speaking, they just 4-bet. They've got ace king, a lot of time they 4-bet. This could have an ace king, some ace kings in it as well, to be honest. Didn't make that clear. But a lot of the time people just 4-bet ace king as well. So we can take that out of their range a little bit, and the fact that we block it. So I think, yeah, I think you're looking at kind of 10s through queens, sometimes 9s, and then ace 10 through ace queen suited, and then maybe an ace queen offsuit on occasion as well. Okay, wow, so let's slow that down a sec. So the villain decides to go for quite a small 4-bet, to be honest. And we're playing 25 NL here, so you know, $6 over 250. That's what, only just over a min raise, really. The min raise would be 510. So they've just put literally an extra kind of 3 and a bit big blinds in. And yeah, like I don't really get what this kind of small 4-bet means. If I was being a cynical, pessimistic asshole, I would probably say that my instinct would lean towards, oh, small 4-bet, he's got like aces, kings, and he doesn't want people to fold, he wants to keep people in the hand. But at the same time, a lot of people do this with, exactly as you said, they're terrible man. I'm sure you're not a terrible man, I'm sure you're a lovely man. A lot of people do this with like jacks and queens as well, and they're just trying to kind of almost pay a little bit extra by doing a small 4-bet to see if someone comes over the top of them with the plan of just 4-bet folding. I've done this myself on occasion. I don't tend to do it very often, but sometimes I will. I'll do this as well. I'll put in a small 4-bet, not this small. I'd still make it a bit bigger, probably like at least 7. Yeah, at least 7, maybe 750, somewhere in that region is what I'd probably do if I was 4-betting pretty much anything. With the sole intent of, well, if someone comes over the top and I've got queens or jacks or whatever, then people are pretty much only coming over the top with aces, kings, maybe sometimes ace king, which I'm flipping against, so probably just fold. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, the hero then comes in strong with the 5-bet jam, and again, I don't know anything about these players as such. I'm very quickly trying to see if I can find what our hero has kind of advised me in terms of reads. And yeah, I can't find it. I'll spend too long looking for that, to be honest. So I think this is fine. Would I do it? It depends. At lower stakes, I would. Ah, Julian, there's our hero right then. He had 6% 4-bet. Okay. Thank you, Julian. I wasn't sure if you were in the chat or not, so that's ideal. So 6% 4-bet. That's quite high of a 4-bet frequency. In fact, let's get a tool out here. Get Equilab up, and we can have a look at what a 6% range is like. Because we're assuming if he's 4-betting 6%, he's probably 4-betting his top 6% of his range, right? So let's go. The top 6%, right? Let's just go with that. Not 65%, 6%. The top 6% has us at 8s through aces, ace king, ace queen off, ace king through ace 10 suited, and then king queen suited. Personally, I don't think that he is raising all of these hands. What he might do is have some bluffs in there. So you might have, like, let's take out kind of 9s and 8s. I don't think you're ever going to see someone min 4-bet or almost min 4-bet 9s and 8s really. You will see people doing it with ace 5 suited, sometimes ace 4 suited, kind of as bluffs. Again, ace queen off. Ace queen off, you might be 4-betting as kind of a bluffy type hand because it blocks aces and queens. I do that sometimes, so I'll keep that in. Ace kings obviously staying in there. Aces kings will stay in there. King queen suited, I highly doubt he'd be min 4-betting that, or almost min 4-betting. I'll just say min 4-betting just for ease. But I'm going to take that out again, and we're still roughly around about that 6% mark. Sometimes you see people do this with 6-7 suited. I've seen people do that. I've done that myself. So yeah, maybe take out kind of ace 10 suited. I still don't think he's going to be 4-betting a lot of these hands very often. I don't think he's 4-betting these, the 10s or the ace jack suited very often. The rest of them I can see him doing it with. In which case, like, let's take this range for a start. And then I'm not worrying about positions here, by the way. And let's take our ace king off. We're a slight favourite against that range that we've put in there that we reckon our villain may have on occasion. Let's narrow his range a bit more now. Let's say he doesn't bother 4-bet bluffing really ever with any of these. Maybe 4-bet bluffs ace queen offsuit and suited, queens and jacks to kind of find out where he is, and then obviously aces, kings, and the ace kings there. We're still basically 50%. So yeah, I mean, as you move up in stakes, I've found this myself, like from having a couple of dabbles at NL20 on Run It Once Poker. I've actually found that more people, as I've moved up in stakes, are willing to 4-bet bluff than at micros. Like 2NL, 5NL, nobody 4-bets bluff. Well, maybe not nobody, but almost nobody 4-bet bluffs. Once you get to 10NL, you start to see people mixing it in a little bit. 20 and 25NL, you see them mixing it in even more. And it's because people just become a bit more aware of how weak some people like to 3-bet. Especially if they don't know, like the population in general tends to 3-bet fold far too easily. Hey, Strutmeister, the hero of last week's stream, with some of the most questionable poker I've ever seen in my life. If I'm being harsh, nah. It wasn't too bad. Come on, it wasn't too bad what Strut had going on last week. The last hand was a cacophony of errors by everyone involved, I think. But yeah. So yeah, so ace king jamming free here against what our hero Julian has said is a 6% 4-bet frequency. I think is more than adequate. If their 4-bet frequency is like 2%, maybe I could see my way to just calling. Certainly playing at much lower stakes. You know, you tend to get people 4-bet bluffing a lot less, so maybe you could go for a call in position. And by calling in position, you may even end up making more money. Like if this guy's got, like we've said that their range can contain a lot of ace queens, and stuff like that as well. You may even find that you make a little bit more money by kind of letting these guys both see a flop. We hit an ace on the flop, and Robert's your father's brother. But yeah, I mean, I think the shove is fine, more than fine actually. Shove is pretty standard play. But like I said, I wouldn't do it every single time, depending on who's on the table. But generally speaking, like, a good pot. And the best thing about it is as well, actually, that one of the massive benefits is when you get these guys to fold, you win. What is that? Start with 28. What's that? 30 bigs, 30 big blinds, something like that. Just under 30 big blinds. I'm not sure. Either way, it's a decent sized pot, and you win that rake free because you're not seeing a flop. I've not played on Bet Online myself, so I'm not 100% on what their rake structure is like, but from what I understand, pretty much all poker sites have the thing where if you win the hand pre-flop, you don't pay any rake. So that is a massive kind of plus point to this there. So yeah, it's a pretty standard hand, but I think it's always worth kind of, it's one of these hands where you could say it's a very basic spot, if that makes sense, but it's always worth kind of going back and looking over these basic spots again. I think it's that whole thing of, like, you know, you can spend hours and hours and hours looking at all the advanced strategy in the world, but if you can't get the basics right, or you can't continually get the basics right, then you're going to end up screwing yourself over in future. So I like the kind of straightforward approach actually of just 5-bet shoving the ace king and just going, right, if you've got aces or kings, so be it, but otherwise we're either flipping or I'm going to win the hand pre-flop or whatever. There. Nice. Okay, we're moving on to the next hand. Going to be thick and fast today, I think. Going to move at a pace. So, hero in the big blind with our jacks. And I can't tell if no, I don't think it's the same table, is it? So we see a raise from the cutoff. Our hero just flats the jacks in the big blind. Okay, we got our first talking point of the day, I think. I've seen people flat jacks at all stakes in the big blind. Now, to me, I think this is a mistake. Anyone has a different opinion on that, please let me know. But I think that flatting jacks in the big blind, especially against the late position raise, is a bit of a mistake here. If you're playing a 9-handed table and under the gun opens for 3x and you've got jacks in the big blind and it folds to you, then I can understand a lot more the idea behind calling in the big blind, and especially if they're a tight player. Tight player raising under the gun in a 9-handed game or 8-handed game, fair enough, I can understand that a lot more. What you've got to consider, this isn't even 6 max at the moment, this is 5-handed here. So yeah, Julian's just said that seeing that it's a mistake. I mean, in terms of why it's a mistake, I think it's just the case that we give our opponent the opportunity to see a cheap flop with too wide of a range. So what he's going to be raising here with from the cutoff is anyone's guess, you know, depending on how loose they are. You know, you could be raising like I would comfortably raise 7-6 suited here, just as an example hand. 7-6 suited actually does quite well against jacks because it can make some 2 pairs, some flushes, some straights and stuff like that the jacks don't block. So a hand like 7-6 suited or 6-5 suited or whatever, obviously you want to put in a 3-bet to charge those hands to try and outdraw you on the flop, basically. And same with, like, you know, almost all suited aces probably going to raise here. A lot of offsuit aces. Ace 9 off is going to probably put in a raise here. Ace 10 off certainly. Just a lot of hands that we are doing really, really well against. But we don't want to just let them see a flop for free. Especially as their range could be so wide. Like, they could literally have anything from aces to, like I said, ace 9 off or something like that here. So we want to narrow their range a little bit as well, especially with jacks, which is always a dicey hand to play. So I think we want to be 3-betting here. And I think 3-betting about 4x. Maybe you could get away with 3.5, but yeah, about 4x. So I can't do maths off the top of my head today. What's 4x? 0.75. Is that $3? I'm sure that's $3. Sorry, I've been working all day. Sorry guys, I forgot I've got a mute button here, which is the times symbol. Thanks Nick for jumping on me there. We started the stream off so well as well. I didn't forget to turn the microphone on, and here I've just accidentally turned it off. Oh well. All I was saying was basically the first mistake is just not narrowing their range. No, sound hasn't gone, mate. Not anymore. It did go, but it's not now. Hopefully it's not. If it is, then I'm just talking to myself like an idiot here. But it, as far as my setup tells me, it should be working. So yeah, first big mistake is calling. As Julian says, villain has a VPIP of 20, pre-flop raise of 5%, so they're very, very tight passive. Cheers, Nick, thanks. And these are the players that we want to punish, especially, you know, tight passive players. You want to put them under pressure because they're the ones who you're going to get folds from. But equally, they're the ones when you flop a set or something like that that you're going to get paid off when they also hit big hand as well. They're just waiting for that big hand, you know. So we see quite an ugly flop. It's not the worst flop in the world though. We've got an overpair. We've got we block clubs. It's very difficult for our opponent to have flopped a flush here. I think the actual percentage on flopping a flush is like 0.01% of the time or something like that. It's a very small number when you're going to flop a flush. So we shouldn't be too worried here about our opponent having the flush. What we can be worried about though is them having a better flush draw. They could certainly have 9-7 here because we didn't 3-bet. That's still very much in their range. They could have pocket 9s, pocket 7s, probably pocket 4s as well. Again, if we'd 3-bet, we'd expect to see pocket 4s fold some of the time. And we'd also expect to see 7s fold some of the time. 9s probably always calling. I would probably personally always call with 7s, or most of the time call with 7s, but you know, especially against a tight passive player, you'd expect them to probably be folding those hands. The other issue we've got is, again, from not 3-betting, they still have hands that have a lot of equity potentially. So they've got 8-6 suited, they've got 10-8 suited, they've got 6-5 suited, you know, all those open-enders that can potentially cause us some trouble on later streets. And we wouldn't be worried about those hands, or we wouldn't be as worried about those hands with a 3-bet, because it would narrow our opponent's range to the top end. So we wouldn't be worried so much about them having, you know, straight draws here, or even having flopped a flush with like a 6-5 of clubs or something like that. So as a hero here, I think we just want to check. Just check to the razor. Yeah. And we see the check back from the villain. That's not too crazy by either player. We should be checking as the hero, and the villain, you'd expect them to check most of their hands back. Even if they flop the nut flush here, they're probably checking back. If they flopped, you know, top pair or something like that, they're probably checking back, keep the pot small. The only hands that I could see them probably betting would be like top 2 or a set, because they want to be looking to get value from a flush draw pretty much straight away. Maybe a set of 4s or 7s, maybe check back 9s or something like that. So turn, we hit the jack. Happy days. What do we want to do here, guys? Do we want to check to try and induce from the villain, or do we want to just come out and try and get some value? I could do with like a countdown clock or something like that here. Like I'll give you like 10 seconds to kind of think about it and put your response in the chat. Something like that. That'd be fun. Give you a few more seconds, guys, if any of you want to chime in with a thought here as to what we could do. Not necessarily what we should do, what we could do. Strut wants to bet the jacks. There. Okay, So, in my opinion, I think betting and checking are both good here for different reasons. The percentage of which you would do either is the question mark. I don't have like a PO solver or anything like that. If someone does and they want to run the sim, like, more than welcome to. But for me, like, just using my kind of my logic and my brain, I can see reasons for betting. I'm looking forward to it, Julian. I can see reasons for betting. Basically, just to try and get value. Obviously, we can bet to try and get value from some weaker Jack X, which, whilst very unlikely, our opponent still could theoretically have a Jack. We could probably get called by a 9, especially a 9 that's got like, like Queen 9 with the Queen of Clubs, Ace 9 with the Ace of Clubs, so on and so forth. Those types of hands. Probably a hand like 10-9 as well. Jack 10, 9-8 would probably call a lot of the time. It's dependent on size as well. If you bet smaller, obviously you're going to get called by a wider range. If you bet bigger, then you're going to get called by a tighter range. And obviously we're going to get called by all of the flush draws. Like any Ace X of clubs is going to call at least. Any King of clubs, I think, is probably going to call most bet sizes. Someone's got King 10 with a club, Queen 10 with a club, they're going to call. There's a lot of good reasons for betting. Reasons for checking is if our opponent has absolutely squadouche at the moment, they're just going to fold it out. If they've got Ace Queen of Spades or whatever, they're probably just going to fold. Ace King as well, probably folding. Just lots of hands that don't have a club in are probably just going to fold here. However, my thinking, having kind of talked it out, I think I probably prefer a bet like a 30, so anywhere between kind of 35% and half pot, I think, just so we can keep in some of the weaker hands, is what I'd probably do. I don't know if that's right, but that's probably what I'd do. But like I said, I can see an argument for checking, try and let some of the weaker hands catch up. We're not too worried about a club hitting because we do block the clubs, and our club is pretty high anyway. And one of the other benefits as well is we can potentially induce the villain to do something stupid, which is always great fun. So I'm not going to press play because it's keep missing the pause button. So Julian comes out with a bet of just over half pot. I like it. I think it's good. Obviously, I said that I'd probably go 35 to 50%. This looks to be like more in the region of about 60-65, but I think that's fine as well. The only time I think you do have real issues is if you come out and you bet like full pot. Because if you bet full pot, you're really narrowing the villain's range down like quite far. Like, I don't think anyone's really going to call a 9 for full pot unless it's like a 9 with the Ace of Clubs or something like that. So yeah, I quite like this bet size, to be honest. So yeah, I don't really have much more to say on it than that, unless anyone's got any other thoughts on this bet size. Would you like to see a smaller bet, bigger bet, no bet? I can see reasons for all of them. The only thing I think is the only thing that I think is a real mistake is betting full pot, to be honest. But that's just me. So skip ahead here. So the villain calls. In terms of the hands that they're going to be calling with, it's kind of everything that I said earlier. They're going to call with a club. They're going to call with like a Queen 10, sometimes a King 10 with a club. you know, any ace of clubs, some jack X if they have it, some 9x. Given the size that we've gone here, I think you're looking at more like your ace 9, king 9, rather than like 9-8. But yeah, villain calls, and I don't know what they have, so I can't make a judgment on their play just yet. But I think it's good. So, see the queen on the river, and for me here, I like a fairly sizable value bet. Probably about the same size as what we've just gone on the turn. So like somewhere in the region of like a 60, 65, maybe 70, 5% of the pot. Sorry, I'm molting here while I'm stroking my beard. Because the queen actually is like, it's a decent card. He might have called with a queen 9, in which case he's got 2 pair. Might have called with a queen 10, in which case now hit a pair. Might have called with like ace queen with 1 club, now got top pair. King queen with a club, probably calling as well, I would assume, now hit top pair. And the very, very rare queen jack as well. So yeah, I think I like going for a decent sized value bet, nothing crazy, but like I said, somewhere between like 60 and 70% is what I'd probably do most of the time, as a value bet. The only downside to it that I can see is if the villain decides to come over the top of us, it puts us in a very tricky position, because they could have potentially got there with like a king 10 with the king of clubs or something like that, or they could have just been pure slow playing us from the flop onwards, having flopped a flush. I don't think that happens very often here. I think we would have seen them potentially raise on the turn with some kind of flush, especially if it's a weaker flush as well, to, you know, protect themselves. So yeah, that's the only downside, but I think we still have to go for the value bet despite that potential tricky situation. Okay, so our hero puts the bet out. It's about half pot, just over, like 52% or something like that. I like the fact that Julian here has gone for the bet, and yeah, the only thing that I would change personally is I would go for a bigger size. Again, because I think if they have what I'm looking to get called by here, I don't think a 9 is going to call. I don't think like a 10-9 or a 9-8 is going to call, or even a king 9 or ace 9. I don't think they're going to call unless we bet super small. So we bet like $1 or something like that. So I prefer kind of taking the approach of you either bet super small to try and get called by a 9, or get called by like pocket 10s maybe, or pocket 8s on a very rare occasion, pocket 8s with a club or something like that. Or going for a bigger size and trying to get called by the hands that have now improved, but hopefully haven't improved to crush us. So like queen 10, king queen with a club, ace queen with a club, stuff like that. Queen 9 as well. That's what I'd kind of be looking to get value from. And all of those hands are going to call a slightly bigger bet size than this most of the time. They'll call a bet of like 240 or 250 or something like that. So yeah, like that's my take on it, guys. I don't know what the solvers would say. I don't know what more experienced people would say. But that's my take on it. I'd probably bet a bit bigger than that. It was me. I'm interested to see what the villain does here. Like if they raised, like we're in a pretty tough spot, I think. And they do come in for a raise, and it's not a small raise either. That's quite a chunky raise. Wow. Okay. So, what do we want to do here? What do we want to do here? I don't know. I'm glad I didn't play this hand. I'm glad I didn't have to make this decision. Wow. Okay. So essentially what we need to do, we need to try and figure out what our villain's going to bluff with. And just for context, in pots like this, people do still bluff. Like, I had someone literally yesterday, I think it was, bluff like queen 9, and they had queen high on a board that was similar to this. Obviously it didn't have a queen on it, didn't have a 9 on it, but it was a very tough kind of decision where they raised on the river, and I just went, fuck it, I'll just call, because I'm a massive fish and I'm a calling station. And luckily I was right, and they were bluffing. So I don't think we can discount the potential for bluffs here. And obviously there are some value raises that they've got as well. So let's think about their bluffs first and foremost. What hands are they going to bluff with? Ace 10 with club, preferably the ace of clubs. Probably do this. Ace 9 with the ace of clubs. Maybe even like if somehow they have like an ace. I think pretty much all ace X with the ace of clubs would theoretically raise on this river because they block the nuts. Whether our villain themselves would do that is another question. But I think it's reasonable to assume that if someone's bluffing here, chances are they're bluffing with the ace of clubs. Is someone going to do this with... I don't think he's got a set. I feel like he would have bet the flop or raised the turn at least if he had a set of 4s, 7s or 9s. So I don't really see him doing this with that. Also, I don't really think they're going to raise a set. Yeah, Strut. Julian posted them up above. The villain is VPIP is 20. The pre-flop raise is 5, and aggression factor is 1. So they're a pretty tight passive player, basically, is what they are. They don't like to get involved too much. They like seeing a cheap flop, just flatting, whatever like that, and then don't really put up much aggression afterwards, which is part of what you've got to consider in these spots as well. Like, if this guy's VPIP is 47 and his pre-flop raise is 35 and all that, then you could argue that he's more likely to be bluffing. They're a bit more loosey-goosey, having a sandwich. But against a tight passive opponent, I think we can consider their potential value hands a lot more. So in terms of value hands, we're looking at slow played flush, of which there are quite a lot, to be honest, which comes back to not 3-betting from the big blind pre-flop. Because we didn't 3-bet, he's going to have ace deuce, ace 3, ace 5, ace 6, ace 8, ace 10, basically all of the ace X of clubs except for ace jack of clubs, because we block that. They could have all of the king X of clubs. They can have all of the queen X of clubs, 10X of clubs, 8X of clubs, and cascading down. Basically, pretty much any hands that are whatever starting card of clubs that you can think of, they could theoretically have in this range. Now we can take out some of their like 2-3 of clubs and 6 deuce of clubs and really junk hands like that. Obviously you can pretty much take out, given that they're quite tight passive. But like 10-8 of clubs, 8-6, 6-5 of clubs, hands like that, they can have all of those quite easily because we didn't 3-bet pre. I don't think they're going to raise like ace queen with 1 club for value. I think they'd just be calling that. Same with king queen. They might raise Queen Jack if they've got the Queen of Clubs, but that's a very specific hand. In fact, that is literally one combo. They'd have to have the Queen of Clubs and the Jack of Hearts to do that. So I think we can reasonably assume that they probably don't have that. King 10 they would do this with. King 10 with one club or King 10 of clubs. So it's a tough one. And what have we got here? So Poker Tracker here is saying we've got about 28% call. So we need to win this hand 28% of the time for this to be profitable. What are your thoughts, guys? Are we winning this hand 28% of the time or better? King 10. Mathematically, it's always a call. But what you've got to consider, like in terms of the maths in and of themselves don't tell you whether it's a call. They just tell you how often you have to win the hand. Like if he min raised this, say for argument's sake, this isn't 666, this is, you know, 382 or whatever like that, then mathematically it's 100% a slam dunk call, because the amount of money we stand to win, like, you know, you'd only need, I don't know, 50% or more, and you're absolutely going to win this hand 50% or more against a really small, like, min raise size. What makes it difficult is the fact that he's gone a fairly decent size. You know, it's more than what was already in the pot. What was already in the pot was we had, what's that, about 550 in the pot. Yeah, there was about 550 in the pot, and he's come over the top for 666. That's quite a big raise. You know, that's more than 3x what we've put a bet in here for. And yeah, as you said, Julian, you thought he had a set at the time, but it doesn't really make sense, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, he could have a set. Let's not say that he can never have a set here, because it is possible he could have a set. I just think that more often than not, the hands that are going to bet the flop are going to be sets, because they're going to be worried about someone sucking out on them with a flush. And for the same reason, I think sets would raise the turn, because then all of a sudden the board is even dicier, because you know, there's potential flush draws that we as the hero could have. We could also have straight draws. If we've got, like, you know, Queen 10 or something like that, then Queen 10 with one club, then our villain's going to want to put in a pretty decent sized raise on the turn to, you know, de-incentivize us to try and hit our straight or our flush or whatever. This is assuming that the villain is playing in the way that I'm thinking about anyway, but most of the time that tends to be what you see. If someone's got a set, they're either going to bet on the flop or they're going to raise on the turn, even on a monotone board, because they're just going to be worried about someone. They're worried about the fourth club coming, or, you know, a 10 on the river or an 8 on the river or something like that. So the fact that they've raised the river makes me lean more towards either a slow play or a straight up bluff. The bluffs, as far as I'm concerned, if it's a bluff, it's going to be like ace 10 with the ace of clubs, or ace X with the ace of clubs. I can't see many other bluffs that make a lot of sense, because any of the queens that have hit, king, queen, ace, queen, queen 10, surely are just going to call on this river, because we could quite easily have a flush here ourselves. We could quite easily have a set. We could easily have whatever. So yeah, that's the argument for them potentially having bluff. And then obviously they can have a value hand quite easily, a king 10 or a slow played flush. They could even have pocket queens as well. They could have pocket queens with the club. That would that would actually make a decent amount of sense. They wouldn't have that much incentive to bet the flop because they're not protecting themselves too much, because they have Queen of Clubs. They don't have to protect themselves as much as like a pocket eights that has the 8 of clubs that isn't really that much use to them. And then on the turn they just call because whatever, like what are they getting called by if they raise? And then they hit their set of queens on the river. So a set of queens maybe, probably the only set I could think of that they might have. But yeah, it's in my opinion, I think we win this hand maybe 50% of the time. And this is just, you've got to remember, guys, this is a tight passive player. So you've got to take out some of those bluffs. You've got to take out the idea that they're going to bluff every ace X of clubs or every king X with the king of clubs. Because they're a tight passive player. Let's do a very, very quick range analysis here. How do I reset clear all? There we go. So we've got, what have we got here? We've got the Jack of Spades, Jack of Clubs. Flop is, that's 9-7, 4 of clubs. Turn is the Jack of Diamonds, I think. All right, Jack of Diamonds, then Queen of Hearts on the river. And our villain in the cutoff. So in terms of, we got to think just purely in terms of hands that we think he's going to raise with here. So hands that he's going to raise with potentially. I'm going to go with we're trying and go with what this thing is not letting me do, which is okay, right, let's take those out. Yeah, so we've got all of his ace X with a club. We've got King 10, specifically King 10 with a club is what I want to say there actually. So all King 10s that have a club. King 10 suited of any kind I think is going to raise. But then what we've got is pretty much a straight sweep of that doesn't make sense. So I'm just going to go very quickly, guys, and throw out all the hands, throw in rather all the hands that could potentially have a flush, basically. So we can't have that, you can't have that, you could have that, he can't have that, you can't have that, can't have that, can have that, can have that, and that probably doesn't have that, probably doesn't have that. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied here that I could say that these are probably the club hands that he has, the flushes that he has. So let's just run the equities right now. So we can expect to win the hand actually 57% of the time. That's a lot higher than I thought. I'll be honest. That is a lot higher than I thought. My only criticism of this reading is what we know of the villain and what we know of players in general. Like, people don't tend to bluff in these river spots that often, especially players who are type passive. So what we can do here is we can say, okay, let's narrow his range down a bit more. It's very hard for him to have ace jack off. There's only one combo, so we'll take that one out. Ace queen off is probably just calling. because they've got showdown value with their queen, so we can probably take ace queen out. Ace 9 I think would probably call as well. I'll take ace 9 out. Ace 7 might do it. Ace 6 maybe. Thing is, knowing how passive they are, I don't think that they are going to be raising some of these hands pre. I don't think they're going to raise ace 6 off from the cut off, or ace deuce off, or ace 3 off. Probably not ace 4 off, but I'll leave it in for now. We'll run the equities again, and we're still pretty high, 42%. Okay, let's narrow his range down even more. And I'm not doing this just to kind of, I'm not trying to find an excuse to fold, just in case anyone's thinking that, which probably looks like I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to do is say, okay, best case scenario against a slightly looser player who we expect to be bluffing with all of their ace of clubs X, is going to be doing this like quite a lot. And now I'm trying to narrow it down so we get a tighter player, and see if it still is a call, even if someone has like hardly any bluffs in their range and the rest is value. That's what I'm trying to achieve here, guys, in case you're wondering. So ace 4 off and ace 5 off. Let's assume he doesn't raise these in the cutoff because he's a tight player that has a 5% raise percentage. And then let's take these out. Let's just go really fucking value heavy. Where are we at? 20%. Okay. So in order for us to fold, we have to assume that his only bluffs are ace king with the ace of clubs. In fact, no, I'm going to change that one. Just that one. But no, I'm going to change both of these because these could be better. So what we can say is, there we go. Okay, that's probably more accurate. So if we assume that they only ever bluff with ace king with a club or ace 10 with a club, then we can still call, because we've got 33% and we only need 28. Why the fuck has the most popular jazz chords come up? I don't, ignore that, guys. I don't know what it is. So hero does decide to call, which is great, which we can say is mathematically like correct, I'd say, given the amount of value hands they can potentially have, and we are assuming that they only have like 2 bluffs, which sometimes they might have more than that, but we're just assuming they only have 2 bluffs, and then all of these value hands we can actually still call, which is fascinating to me because I honestly didn't think that was going to be the case, but it is. There it is in terms of raw equity. So let's see. Here it does call. What have we got? Ace 6 of clubs. Human. So he did slow play the nut flush, and it makes sense. It makes sense, right? It makes sense that you'd slow play the nut flush there. Yeah. So what can we take from that? I think the first thing we take is 3-bet your jacks from the big blind, because our tight passive player, do we think that he's going to be calling with ace 6 suited against a 4x 3-bet from the blinds? Probably not, right? Some people will, yeah, but most of the time, yeah, most of the time we're still good. Most of the time we're going to get folds from hands like this that can screw us up. Someone's just commented on the Black Rain post saying that they've missed the stream. I'm just going to send them a quick message saying, no, we are still going. Okay, so Lesson learned, Julian. Yes, exactly. So that was an interesting. The river there. That was really interesting. I meant to get Equilab out the last time we did did one of these strategy sessions, and yeah, I'm glad we did. Okay, let's go for the next hand. 10-8 offsuit, raising the cutoff. My first thought here is it can be good, it can be bad. It depends on the table. If you're at quite a tight table where players are folding in the blinds quite a lot, absolutely go for it from the cutoff and the button. Probably wouldn't do it from the hijack. If you are doing this as like a standard, I'm not entirely sure I would do that. That's just me. I don't think it's quite high up enough in a range to do so. Let's go for where are we going? Open from cut off. Upswing pokers open from cut off is that basically. You see there we don't open from the cut off with 10-8 off, 10-9 off, Jack-9 off, even Ace-9 off. You don't open from the cut off here. This is just one of their like free charts that they have on their website. So by all means, guys, go and check that out. Let's have a look at one of these others. Okay, so we've got another opinion here from Poker Evolution, who also don't have 10-8 off in their off opening range. Poker Strategy, short-handed, standard, off range. They've gone for a little bit of a looser standard opening range, but still don't have 10-8 off in it. Tighter range obviously won't. A looser range, I'm going to guess maybe does. Yeah, okay. So we've got a few kind of things here, which is basically if you're opening a looser range, maybe add it in. But as a standard, it seems to be pretty clear cut from all of these different charts that have been put together by people a lot smarter than I am, that probably shouldn't be doing this as standard. But I can see reasons for doing it looser, as can whoever that other company was, Poker Strategy or whoever. Raise. Okay. I'm just gonna come right out and say fold. Just fucking fold. I cannot see a good enough reason to call this. 10-8 suited maybe. 10-8 off, as far as I'm concerned, it's a pure fold here. The villain's raise is quite small. They've only gone about 3x, but even then, 10-8 off for me is a hand that you're opening it to try and take down the blinds, and maybe you have a bit of playability on the turn. Maybe you have a bit of playability on the flop with it if you can hit like a nice mid-range board, but most of the time you're probably going to be looking at one pair at best. So even though you've got position, I think you just fold this. Come out fold, especially given the fact that we've just looked at some ranges, some opening ranges, and it's not even in a lot of the opening ranges. Now you got to consider that your opening range is always going to be wider than your 3-bet range. So if you're already opening really wide and then you're calling this wide as well, you are asking for trouble, as far as I'm concerned. You are just literally asking to get shafted pretty unceremoniously as well. So I think already, Julian, we can kind of say that maybe pre-flop is the area to be looking at for you. I mean, by all means, don't take my word for it. You're already playing 25 NL. I'm still playing at 10 NL. I could move up to 25 NL if I moved money from different sites around, but at the moment I'm just sticking out at 10 NL. But yeah, I think you should really consider how wide you are opening and calling with here versus how tight you played in the last hand, where with pocket jacks really you should be 3-betting and you chose a passive approach. So you're choosing a passive approach with your stronger hands and you're choosing a looser approach with your weaker hands is what I'm taking just purely from these two hands. Is I could be completely wrong in terms of what you're actually doing, but just from these hands alone. So we see a half pot c-bet from the villain. Spoiler alert, I already know what happens in this hand because it was one of the hands that I was trying to faff about with getting into my HUD earlier, so I already know what the problem is here. But when we've got villain doing this, their range is going to contain some air, some overcards, some ace king, ace queen, ace jack that have missed the flop, king queen suited that has missed, king jack suited that has missed, even queen jack suited a lot of the time. So they've got a bunch of like hands that either maybe have a draw or they've just got overcards in their range. And then we get the problem cards, which is they have aces, kings, queens, jacks. They've got one combo of tens. They could have nines as well, which is a problem. Very unlikely they have eights because I don't think they'd c-bet. Number one. Number two, I don't think they 3-bet with eights very often. And then the other thing, obviously, we have an 8 blocker. So already we're looking at like overcards or over pairs, I think, most of the time. In which case, do we want to call or raise? I think calling is fine as like your standard play. However, I can see an argument for raising as well some of the time. But like a really small raise, like they've raised almost $2 there, or bet almost $2 there. I could see reason for raising to like 450 or 5, somewhere in that region, because when you do that, you're going to get some of the time they're going to call, and when they call, they're almost always going to check the turn, meaning that you can potentially check back if you don't like the look of the turn card. If the turn's like an 8, then or a 10, then have at it, sure. But if you don't like the look of the turn card, then a lot of the time what you can do is you can check back the turn, and then you get to see your full 5 streets. The other thing is as well, a lot of the time they will just fold out. If they've got ace king of spades here, and you come in for a raise on this flop, even a very small raise, they're just going to fold it out. And ace king of spades still has like a decent amount of equity against you here. There's still a lot of problems that can be caused. King queen as well probably fold, despite the fact that king queen can hit gut shot to the nuts. They can hit a king or a queen that crushes you. So I can see an argument for potentially raising small to kind of protect your hand, basically. And then when they call, they're going to be weighted heavily towards either an overpair, maybe a set of 9s, very rarely a set of 10s, or maybe like a queen jack, or a flush draw or something like that with overcards. So either way, you're kind of narrowing their range down. But as a standard, I think a call is fine as well. I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to spitball ideas here just to get people thinking and try it and see if it works and see how it goes, kind of thing. We do call. Turn is a 3. So I'm going to go back to this method. The 3 on the turn literally changes nothing. Neither of us should ever have a 3 in our range here. Very, very rarely, maybe like ace 3 suited, either of us could potentially have. But aside from ace 3 suited, yeah, aside from ace 3 suited, I can't really think of any real change to this board. Now, villain comes out betting strong. I'll get to your message in a sec, Shane. Shane. I haven't missed it. I'm in the flow a sec, man. So villain's betting quite strong here. I think at this stage we fold. Now, call me a nit, call me tight, call me Susan, call me whatever you want. But I think we fold now, because villain with this bet is making it very apparent that they've got something here, I think, or a very strong draw at least. They've got like Queen Jack of diamonds, or King Queen of diamonds maybe, or something like that. And they're not really showing much indication of slowing down, which is kind of what we want. When we call the flop and then the turns a brick, we want to see them checking. We want to see them checking with their ace king, ace queens that have just bricked and, you know, standard c-bet on the flop. And the reason is because our range hits this board better than theirs. Whilst we shouldn't necessarily have 10-8 off, what we can have is all the pocket nines. We have pocket tens. We have jack 10, ace 10, king 10, queen 10. We can have 10-9. So we should theoretically have more of those kind of middling hands that hit this board quite well, as well as the fact that we can have some draws ourselves and what have you like that. What this bet is saying to me is that they've got, if I was in this hand completely, you know, completely fresh, didn't know who the villain was, don't have any stats, nothing, and I see the 3-bet, the c-bet on this flop, and then the c-bet on the turn, my thoughts immediately jump to aces through kings, and they are trying to get value from draws or 10x. Ace 10 through jack 10, and then all the flush draws and the straight draws that we can have, which are very, very much in our range. Especially with the 3 on the turn as well, which means that if we did have a hand like 10-9, their overpair can now just go straight for value from us because they've counterfeited us. So my thoughts here are fold, especially given the fact that we've got a weak kicker as well. So they could even have ace 10 suited here, king 10 suited, and are crushing us still, even with a hand as weak as just a top pair, because our kicker is so weak. So I'd be looking to fold this. If anyone else has got a different take on that, by all means go ahead. I'm happy to hear out your thought process, but I'm looking to fold this. Our hero Julian comes in with a call. The river's an ace, and that is just about the worst river that I can think of. I mean, our only saving grace up until this point has been maybe villains doing something screwy with an ace king, ace queen, ace jack that they've missed. Or maybe ace king, ace queen, ace jack of diamonds that has a flush draw. That is our only like saving grace here, basically, is maybe that's what they've done. However, with the ace on the river now, we are, for lack of a better term, kind of fucked. So we got a problem. We got a problem here. And the villain comes in for a check. So, I mean, the question is here, what are they checking? I personally don't think the villain is ever going to check ace king. I think they're just going to jam ace king for value pretty much every time. I think they're going to jam ace 10 a lot of the time, but not all the time. I think sometimes they might recognize that a lot of our range contains missed draws now. We have queen jack, we have, you know, various diamond hands that have now missed, that are potentially going to want to bluff. So this could be trying to induce a bluff from us. However, I think a lot of the time when they check here, you're going to see kings, you're going to see queens, you're going to see jacks, and then some of the weaker aces that are trapping. You're going to see ace jack, you're going to see maybe sometimes ace queen. I think ace queen will probably jam a lot of the time as well. I mean, if you really think really hard, then ace queen, ace jack could maybe be a better jam than ace king, because ace queen, ace jack, you'd block queen jack, meaning that there's less chance of us as the hero having a missed straight draw. In other words, it leans us more towards value hands. But yeah, so I think it's sorry, my chair's falling apart. I think it's a spot where you're going to see a kind of a 50-50. You're going to see some ace X that are trapping now. Aces would be trapping, absolutely. And then ace king, ace queen, ace jack, and ace 10, I think would trap. I think the villain's probably checking almost their entire range here, in all honesty. I can't think of many hands that they would bet, because our range has got so many missed draws in them that I think they're just gonna trap pretty much everything. And then all of their what were overpairs, like queens, jacks, kings, I think they would sometimes call a river shove from us when we're on a bluff, but they are equally trying to potentially see a cheap showdown when we just have a 10, and they don't want to they don't want to get called by what is pretty much straight value hands. Like if they shove ace jack here, what are they getting called by? Probably quite rare they're getting called by anything other than a boat, or like an ace king of diamonds or something like that. I think the check by the villain's good no matter what they have. I think there's pretty much, I think I'd probably check everything here. Yeah, to try and see a cheap showdown with my weaker hands, and then try and induce a bluff with my ace X or my boats and that. As the hero here, I mean, it's a tough one. I think we should have folded on the turn for a start. I don't think we're ever good here. The only exception might be in very rare occasion that they have like queen jack, king jack, or king queen themselves. But I think those hands are probably some of the only hands that are going to shove the river, being on bluffs themselves and trying to get us to fold a 10 thinking they've now hit an ace. That's my thinking on that. Yeah, I think we've already put in too much money into this pot already, and I think trying to bluff here would be quite irresponsible. The reason being is because the ace shouldn't change our range too much, or shouldn't help our range too much. And it's a very obvious bluffing spot for a hand like a queen jack or something like that, you know. If the river was a king, then and our opponent checks to us, then I like the idea of bluffing by shoving all in a lot more, because it's more feasible that we would have like a queen jack that got there, or even if it was like a diamond or something like that. But what we need to think about is, with our range, what makes sense for our range to shove on the river if we are to bluff. I think that what makes sense is hands that look like they have a draw on the flop and look like they've hit that draw on the river, and then our opponent like checks to us. So as I said, if the river was an 8, if the river was a king, then we could potentially rep a straight from having, you know, called down twice with queen jack. Or if the river was pretty much any diamond, I think we could also then represent that we've hit the flush. With the ace of clubs, I think it looks too much like a bluff if we shove this. I don't actually recall from seeing the hand earlier what Julian does here, so I'll be interested to see. Julian does check it back. I think that was the best thing you could do there. I think the best thing you can do is literally just check it back and hope that our villain was getting a little out of line with like a king queen, king jack, queen jack themselves, and has just kind of given up now. However, we see bad news. We see the jacks. The question is, would the villain have folded jacks if we had shoved the river? And it's an interesting question, because of the fact that they have jacks, they block queen jack themselves, making it less likely that we are shoving queen jack on a bluff. The problem is we don't have many ace X in our range that make a lot of sense. So yeah, I really don't know whether or not the villain would have folded on the river here. But yeah, I think this is another hand again where the mistake was made pre-flop. What we should have done was just folded to the 3-bet with 10-8 in position, and we could have saved ourselves a big headache in this hand. So thank you for the follow, NRS Big T. Yeah, as Bob says, just ace X of diamonds is the only thing we're representing. I don't think we have that often enough. Because most, and as well, the problem we've got is they also have a diamond in their hand. So it's less likely that we would have something like ace jack of diamonds. We'd pretty much be repping ace king of diamonds and ace king of diamonds and ace queen of diamonds, and that would be it. That's what we're representing, basically, by shoving the river. Except for missed bluffs, which is what we don't want them to think we have. Also, Shane, I missed your message earlier where you said after the session the other week you ran at 44 big blinds per 100 for 1200 hands at 5NL. That is fucking excellent work, my dude. And I know what people are going to say. People are going to say, oh, your sample size is too small. Like, fuck that. Yes, it is a small sample size. Yes, don't get carried away with it. But be proud of how you've performed over 1200 hands running at 44 big blinds per 100. That's a really good fucking run. I don't know how many tables you play and how many hands you play in per hour or anything like that. But, you know, it's good. It was nuts, just a small sample, but I'm 30k hands in a weekend. Yeah, I mean that's fine. You got to run hot sometimes, but yeah, you still got to put in some good play to run that hot. Like you don't run that hot just from getting purely lucky. I kind of understand what you mean there, Bob. You play the same way if you had 10s or 9s if you were the hero. I mean that does make sense. I'll give you that. I hadn't considered that, so that's a good one to say. So yeah, we would shove 10s and 9s on this river, and we would probably play it exactly in this way. Yeah, so that's a good assessment. Yeah, I in with that in mind, then what I would say is that with this exact board and with the hand played in this exact way, I think the best approach would be to shove the river with your value hands only, with your 10s and your 9s, as in your boats of pocket 10s, pocket 9s, and maybe ace 10. If you've got this far with ace 10, then shove ace 10 as well. Because if the villain was doing something screwy with an ace king, ace queen, ace jack, and you've got ace 10, then you could potentially get value from them with a better 2-pair. The 1-3-3 combo, I mean, it's not a nerd. I've seen people with a combo of 3-3 here, and it's pain. But what can you do? So we could talk this hand to death, but I think we could pretty safely say that on this river, don't bother bluff shoving because you're just going to get looked up too much, and shove your value hands. But if the river is like a diamond or 8 or a king, something that would help your very draw heavy range, then maybe stick it in and pray to the poker gods. 5 big blinds over 100 over 30k hand stretch is still a very good run, mate. I've also dropped down from 4 tables to 2 recently, and for anyone who wasn't here at the start of the stream, I'll just quickly show you how I've run in like the last week. That's the wrong thing. No, actually no, that'll do. I'll give you an idea at least. So you can see there from playing on PokerStars, only 2 tables. That is a lot of green. And that's a combination of $5 pot limit Omaha, and that's about five buy-ins worth there. A little bit of 10NL reg tables, and then some 10NL Zoom tables, which are equally looking pretty. I got a little bit lucky here, but what can you do? And then also on Party Poker, I've played a little bit as well, and that's also looking very much the same. So since our last session last week, I've been doing really well, and I'm glad to hear that Shane, you've been doing well as well. And Strut, our man of the stream last week. But I'd just like to point out this little figure here that shows that over 500,000 hands, I'm actually running under EV on PokerStars. And running, what I will say, like with this, I'm pointing at it, you can't see my finger pointing, but with this here, right, you're going to be looking at this and thinking, fucking hell, this guy's played 500,000 hands, what is he doing? This is crap. What this doesn't take into consideration, there was a long period of last year where I was playing on my phone a lot, and I didn't, foolishly, keep track of the hand histories and keep requesting the hand histories from PokerStars in order to get my actual full stats, because I made a few hundred playing like 5NL then. So this number should actually be higher. And what this also takes into consideration is when I first started learning poker 12 years ago, 13 years ago in 2007. So ignore this. At the moment, I'm focusing mainly on my year-to-date results. Which are this year, please. So year-to-date, I'm running on average about 5.5 big blinds over 100 and net of about 190, and that's primarily played at 5NL Zoom. As you can see here, I've only played a very few hands at 10NL, some PLO, and then some 2NL as well, but it's mainly been 5NL. And I kind of screwed myself earlier this year. I started out okay, it was going okay, the red line was going down, but that was fine, and then I just stagnated and not gone great. NNL's gone a lot better. Well, it was going great earlier this year, and then I absolutely tanked. Like one session, I just tanked loads. And now I've gone back, I've practiced a bit, studied a bit, and now it's starting to kind of creep back up again. But that's what I've been taking from these sessions anyway, guys. So I'm glad that it's helping a couple of you as well. We have time for one more hand. I think I'll go for one more hand, and then we'll call it a day. Couple of questions here. I think Party Poker has a fishier pool. I've mainly played this year. I've not played much cash actually. I've mainly been playing tournaments, and I'll very quickly get my shark scope up for you for Party Poker, and I'll show you how it's gone. It's gone pretty well, to be fair. So my shark scope for Party Poker, pretty damn good, I would say. Average ROI of about 34%. I've got a few wins in there. That's not a win. Got a win there, a win there, a win there in a PLO tournament. Great stuff. Cheers for hanging out again, Strut. We'll see you again next time. Glad to hear that you're doing better, mate. Also, Orson, I prefer 6 max to 9 max. Partly due to the speed of the game, and also you can play a lot looser in 6 max. I like a loosey-goosey having a sandwich style. So yeah, so that's Party. Just for context now, I'll show you my PokerStars graph, which has, granted, this has only got 250 odd tournaments. My PokerStars graph has about 3,000, and look at that mess. What is that? That is horrendous. It's all over the shop. I came second in the tournament a couple of months ago to get myself back up, and then I went down and up and down and up and down and up. Like, it's horrendous. And what I've pinpointed it down to be is two things. First of all, Party Poker's player pool is fishier. And the second thing is the size of the tournaments. So Party Poker, almost all of these tournaments that I've won, here you go, 244 players, 124 players, 118 players, 50 players. Smaller fields. This tournament, I came second, great, 901 players, 400 and something players, 21,000 players, 800 players, 800 players, 2,500 players. You get the point, right? That is the biggest difference that I've noticed. Playing smaller fields just makes it so much fucking easier, and especially when you're playing against the same players every day as well, and you get to know certain players' characteristics. Even though you don't have a HUD, you don't really need one. As long as you play a basic, fundamental, solid strategy, and you're taking notes on the players that you're playing with, you don't really miss the HUD. You don't, honestly. Like, I recommend to anyone to play without a HUD when they're very, very first learning, and the reason being, and I know this is going to get me a lot of hate, but I can't help it. The reason why I would say to people, play without a HUD when you're first learning the game, is because you want to have a basic, solid, fundamental strategy down before you even start worrying about VPIP, PFR, aggression frequency, 3-bet frequency, 4-bet frequency. How are you adjusting to all these things? Because you need to have your standard baseline, what you're opening, what you're 3-betting, what you're calling 3-bets with, what you're 4-betting with, and all of that. All the stats, all of the VPIPs and PFR stats and 3-bet stats in the world, they just tell you how to deviate from what your standard is. So if you normally call 3-bets with a 10% range, for argument's sake, but you've got someone who is 3-betting fucking 50% of hands, then you know, I can increase my 3-bet range to 15% or 20% or whatever like that. You can deviate. But if you don't have the fundamental baseline common sense strategy down of, I'm just going to call 10% of my range 3-bets, I'm going to call with these hands, end of story. If you start out with that strategy, you find that it's working, great. Then introduce a HUD and then go, okay, well, this player is 3-betting more than the average person, so I'm going to call with a couple of extra hands. Or alternatively, this person never 3-bets, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the amount of hands that I'm going to call with. And I realise I'm kind of shouting at you guys right now, but I see so many people who are so fucking obsessed with PFR stats and VPIP stats and stuff like that. And guess what? Half the sites now, oh, fuck off. No, I don't want to become famous. Whoever you are, ban. There we go, ban. Half the sites that you play on nowadays don't have a HUD. Or maybe not half of them, but certainly a decent proportion of them don't have a HUD. I'm pretty sure GG Poker doesn't have a HUD. Party Poker doesn't have a HUD. Run It Once does, but it's their own built-in HUD, and the thing is fucking a thing of beauty. It gives you 3 stats. It gives you VPIP, PFR, 3-bet, that's it. A number of hands. Like, I love it. It looks really good. Watch my last stream where I was playing PLO on Run It Once, and you'll see what the HUD looks like. And I really like it, and it's just built in. You don't have to pay for it. It's not an external piece of software. It's just built in to run it once. So that is my like big thing, guys. Like, I'm not saying don't use a HUD for review purposes, or don't ever use a HUD while you're playing, but you know, if you play live, you don't have a HUD. If you play on a lot of these sites, you don't have a HUD, so don't fall into the trap of relying on it. Use your brain. Pay attention to what people are doing on the tables. Pay attention to if someone is very clearly 3-betting you every single time that you raise them from the button or something like that. Thanks for clarifying, Shane. That's great. Great stuff. I haven't played on GG myself, actually, so I was going off basically what I've seen of other people playing it. So yeah, that's my little rant there, guys. It's one of these things. Like I don't get me wrong. I'm not a pro myself. I'm probably less experienced than some of you guys in the chat. Even I'm certainly less experienced than a lot of the guys that are in the Facebook group. So don't take my word as gospel. But for the love of God, also don't take anyone else's word as gospel. Do your own research. Like, experiment with different things. Experiment playing with a HUD, playing without a HUD, different sites. Try and find player pools that suit your style of play. I have like I am slowly developing a quite aggressive way of playing. Party poker tournaments, the player pool really don't like that aggressive style of playing, which is why I've done better in party poker tournaments than, you know, tournaments on most other sites, because my style of playing works well against that player pool. So yeah, like, I think I'm going to wrap the session up here, guys. Like, I kind of gone out of the hand reviewing thing, and I'm just talking just general bollocks. So there were 2 hands I didn't get to from Julian, so what I'll do is I'll probably just keep them in the back pocket, and we'll look at them next time we do this. And yeah, we'll call it a day there, I think. I've had my rant. I've had my don't rely on a HUD rant. Don't rely on charts rant and all that. And we'll call it a day. I will not be doing this again next Thursday. I've got some kind of vacation time essentially from work. So me and the missus are going to try and use it basically in whatever way we can in this crazy COVID-ridden world. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this session on a different day. I don't know exactly when that will be yet. What will most likely be the case, what will most likely be the case is I also stream every Sunday as well, Sunday morning. Well, Sunday morning in the UK anyway, 11 AM, or between 10 and 11 AM ish. So what I'm probably going to do is, instead of just doing what I normally do in those sessions where I just play, some hands basically, play some cash games, I think I'll just substitute playing for doing this session in one of those. So I'll be streaming again this Sunday, and I'll be streaming again the Sunday after. I don't know which one I'm going to do it in yet. If I had to guess, I would say possibly the Sunday after. So that would be the, whatever that is, Sunday the 23rd, if I had to hazard a guess as to when I'll do this session again. Yeah, like I said, nothing's set in stone, so I'll post on the group when I know what's happening. And like follow my Twitter and all that shit as well, because I'll post it on there as well, in case you just miss it on the Facebook group. So if you follow me on all the social medias, I always post on there when like I'm going live and shit like that. So if you've missed me saying, oh, it's going to be on this day at this time, follow on there. Also, guys, as an extra kind of thing, which is just kind of giving you a heads up as to what my plans are in the future, in case any of you have got a Twitch Prime or something like that you want to throw my way. When I get to 20 subs, you can see down below there, sub goal is at 2. when I get to 20, I am going to do a stream where I'm going to play some sit and goes where I cannot see my own hole cards. Let that sit with you for a sec. So I will be playing sit and goes where I cannot see my own hole cards, and it'll be for fun. Like, it's not going to be necessarily educational as such. It'll be a case of, can I use what I know about ranges and range versus range play and stuff like that, and reading my opponents to even cash one sit and go. I'll play like 6 sit and goes. I'll see if I can cash one without even knowing what my own hole cards are. I've purely got to assume that I'm bluffing every single hand. I think that'd be quite fun, to be honest. But yeah, that's what I'm planning to do once I hit 20 subs. So yeah, if any of you got Twitch Prime or anything like that, please help me towards that goal, and we can have some good old fun in that respect. So I'll leave it there, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.